I feel the same as the audience does with that cheering. I'm so happy to have you guys. Welcome into another episode of the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Joining me today are the hosts of the Love After Lullabies podcast, Aaron and Miranda. How the heck are you guys doing today?
We're doing well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm excited to have you guys. So, if you haven't heard their show before, it's fantastic. I've gotten to hear them on their show, but also hear them on Everyday Parents podcast. So I got to see a different side of them, which was really cool. I did not know, Aaron, that you worked for a credit union. And Amanda, I had an idea that you worked in mental health, but I didn't know specifically what you did. So tell us a little bit about yourselves and your day jobs and about your podcast.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm in private practice as mainly a couples therapist. So if you were to ask me going into grad school, like, would you want to be a couples therapist? I'd be like, oh, hell no. That sounds terrifying. But here I am. So my main focus has always been working with new or expectant couples. So that's been something that I've been really passionate about, of helping couples maintain their relationship after the arrival of kids. Because even the healthiest, happiest relationships, 2/3 of them really have a relationship decline after the birth of a child, or bringing a child into the family because of the stress and all of the other factors that are taking place, of lack of sleep and new roles and all that. So that's what primarily the focus is, which also kind of, rippled into the podcasting world of, focusing relationships after kiddos.
Yeah, it's been eye-opening too, not being in the therapy realm, but doing the Love After Lullabies podcast. Then that's the normal statistic, and then you add on top of parents that have kids with neurodiversities, and the hardship that puts on their relationship is just, it's overwhelming to almost listen to, let alone go through it themselves. And you could obviously tell why divorce rates are even higher in those situations. So
we just wanted a platform that allowed couples to share their experience, because I think the more that people can hear the real life kind of day-to-day stuff, the better, because we see a lot of stuff in movies and shows, and sometimes it's accurate and sometimes definitely not. So
yeah, part of that journey we're sharing right now in our Making Maya series that we have out on our Love After Lullabies. It's a 7-episode series.
I think it will be, total.
Yeah, maybe with one teaser, making it 8. But if you haven't listened to it yet, go back and listen from the beginning. And essentially, it's the story of us and our friends going through me and us being a known donor. And so it's a really interesting conversation and bringing light to something that should be the new normal. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that. The known donor, did we donate eggs, sperm, both? Carry the child? Kind of what did you guys do in that aspect? Because I've listened to a little bit of it. I think it's really cool. So I understand it. But for the listeners that haven't checked it out yet, that are going to check it out after they hear this a little bit, what kind of inspired all that for you guys, just from the very beginning of that story?
Yeah. Well, we used to live in Arizona, and we became really close friends with, a friend there. We had other friends there, of course.
The one friend.
And when we moved away, she met a new partner, and her partner got married, and they, she's gay. So they wanted to have children, and it was a situation that was just the perfect circumstances. I don't think we would have ever volunteered ourselves to be donors. Aaron is a sperm donor, so he's the biological father of their daughter. And the whole process of how it took place, how they asked us, how, we have such a strong relationship with them, and so much trust has been built that if it were any other circumstance, any other friend or partner or situation, it probably wouldn't have worked out well for us. So her and her partner carried, which worked great, because we met her later after we moved away. So she wasn't like a super close friend, because I think that would have been strange. Like,
well, yeah, the connection through our friend Nicole, who's the other mom, that connected her to the baby as well, right? Mm-hmm. So it's her wife and partner carried the baby, but the only reason they were having a baby was because we were friends with the other mom, Nicole, beforehand. So it was a really cool connection.
No, you're good. So Nicole, is Nicole's egg then, and then Aaron, you're the donor, or is it her partner's egg and you're the donor?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
It's her partner's egg. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, I could definitely see if it was like her egg, how that might have been a little bit weird.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's been a great experience, and we're very close to them. We're part of their lives. So not only, we're the known donor, which adds a whole another benefit of medical history and who you are and knowing who you came from, but also it's led to this really beautiful extra family that we now get to have. And our two daughters have a half sister, and they're part of their lives. And we go and they come see us, and we go see them often every year.
Yeah,
it's been really fun. Rewarding.
Yeah, and I think something why we wanted to share this, I mean, we waited until season 2 because it was something that we had considered, but it's also very scary, especially for, Nicole and Krista, exposing themselves out in the world, and politically, everything that's going on. And also, like, we wanted to share and be vulnerable on the podcast ourselves. And also the 4 of us really wanted to not like preach or like, when you say the new normal, that part of me is just like, I don't want it to be the new normal, but
the new normal of the conversation happening.
Right. Have there be more language around it or experiences to where other people who are going through that have something that they can like, oh, okay, cool. We're not the only ones. Or there are other people who have.
There's a new roadmap.
The amount of times that we say roadmap on that series is hilarious. It could be a drinking game.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in listening to the series and having a drinking game,
this is one way.
Every time you say roadmap, salute.
I might. That sounds like a good excuse to drink.
Yeah.
But no, that's super cool, and that's different. And I think it's so important to, I guess, create that roadmap. I guess if you're drinking on this episode, it'd be a great chance already. We said it 4 times.
Yeah.
And it's so important to create that conversation, because if that conversation is not being had, and then it can be really scary, because how does a couple who is part of that community, the LGBTQI plus community, how do they go and ask like a really close friend, like if I was gay and I came up to you, Amanda, I'd be like, hey, I know we're really close. Will you carry my child? Pretty much. Like, can we use your eggs, with our sperm kind of thing? It's like, it's a huge ask, because not only does that require you to either carry or donate an egg, which includes a procedure of some kind at some point along the way, it also puts a stress on your guys' relationship. And then all the things that come then after, because I'm sure you guys have thought about everything from A to B to C to Z, and then back around again, like, okay, what happens if this? What happens with this? What happens if this doesn't work out? What happens here, kind of here, like all the things. Like, not only is it just a donation, like, here you go, I shoot off 100 of these a day, it's fine. But it goes to that next level. It's like, holy crap, like, I know you, we have a close personal relationship, like, I'm known, like, this kid like comes to me. So Aaron, what's that been like to you to like know like this child's like biological father, but not like the father that's like raising them essentially?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was such a process that we planned from the very beginning. Like, even from the moment of asking us, we really try to like plan things out. And the analogy of the roadmap is when you're on Google Maps and it gives you a way to go. And so you're like, oh, that's right, that's the way to go. That doesn't mean I have to follow that roadmap, right? You could always steer off and like, oh, I know this way is going to be better. I'm going to choose to do this. And so it's been, I feel good about it. It's I'm trying to dodge this question a little bit, and I don't know why.
Why?
It's well, it's hard to explain because like there's so many levels of emotion throughout the process, right? So how I felt in the beginning, definitely it's different the way I feel now. The way I feel now is just overcome joy to be able to watch our 3 girls like sit on a bus waiting for the bus while we're all like going to go out and hang out, and having their funny conversations with each other. And it's awesome given the opportunity to partake in like bringing more love and joy into the world. It sounds super cheesy, but in this world of crazy political climate and uncertainty, just to push all that aside and say, you know what, this is the greater good. And it's just awesome to partake in that.
But I think before, you mentioned you think of all the scenarios, right? And we thought of as many scenarios as we possibly could, knowing that we're not thinking of all of them. And so we made the conscious decision before committing to this. We went to couples therapy really to address not only our relationship to make sure that we are strong enough, but also for me to consider, are we done having kids? Because that made a difference for me personally of if that chapter's closed for me, that feels more, I'm more inclined for some reason, but also the legal aspect of things too can be, so there's a lot of conversations that took place, and we're not going to get them all still.
Yeah.
True.
There's a factor that we'll probably come out with a later episode on this after we sit on it for a minute, but there's some uncertainty and unrest with my own internal family about this decision. They're very much more conservative and religious, and it's created some roadblocks for our family, for my extended family. So it's been interesting to maneuver through and challenging at times, but it's
no regrets though.
100% worth it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%. I can see that on both sides, especially, core values are core values, belief system are belief systems, you can't ultimately change, but I think it's a great example for you guys, like, to have those conversations, but to really say, like, this is my family's decision. This is our family's decision. Like, yes, I still love you guys. I respect your values. I respect everything you've done. If you can't respect me, that's on you. But this was a decision made between us that worked for us. And I totally get that, Amanda, for you. Like, Miranda, I'm sorry, I keep calling you Amanda.
That's okay.
Miranda, for you, like, that totally makes sense. Like, to make sure that you're okay with having another kid that's not going to be yours from the father of your children, for someone else, like, you have to really be sure, like, that conversation's like closed, done, 100% wrapped up, put a bow on it kind of thing. Unless, like, that conversation leads to, okay, we'll do this, but then later down the line, I want to do this kind of thing, and making sure, like, all those conversations are had. So I think it's a great example of, like, you work in mental health. You are a couples therapist. I'm a mental health clinician myself. And, like, I had to put my kid in therapy. I put my own daughter in therapy with a different therapist that I work with. And it's like, I can't do it myself. I can't therapy my own kid, because they're too much like me. You can't therapy your own relationship. I'm sure it helps in time. Like, it helps at times with my kid. Like, oh, I know what you're going through. I get it. I know how to work with you a little bit through this kind of thing. Or, oh, I didn't even think of doing that idea with my own kid. So now I can understand this a little bit better, a little bit different aspect. So I think all those things are so important. And, like, you guys are such a great example of those things, to make sure that those things were talked about, did happen, and those loose ends that could have been loose ends didn't end up being loose ends that caused more contention down the line.
Yeah, that's well said. And we both, during this process, had our own individual therapists, and we also saw a couples therapist in the beginning to make sure there wasn't any loose ends that we hadn't thought about or seeing another perspective on. And I know for me specifically, working through a therapist, you hit the nail on the head as far as trying to discover what my core values were and how those may have a ripple effect on others, and being okay that it's not their core value and they may have issues with it, but guess what? That's their issues. Like, I have to stay strong that these are my core values, and I'm not going to deter from those, as they're not going to on theirs either. So, but to respectfully say, you got to be okay with the decisions you make, and then still love and support each other.
And that's why we were very closed doors during this decision. We didn't share this news with anybody, because we didn't want outside factors affecting our decision or affecting our feelings to make us second guess or question what we were going through. And so I think that really helped, like, build that foundation for us of that trust that really helped, make the decision seem more cemented.
It's like when you're pregnant and having a baby and you tell people what you're going to name your kid, and they're like, "Oh, I knew a Robert. He was a jerk." You're like, "Oh, I don't want to hear about it because we're going to name our kid Robert."
Right. Yeah. You suck. Why do you say that?
Yeah.
Right. No, I get that. So no, it's important to make sure that that's like your guys' decision. Like when you guys first had your kids, like that was your decision to have like your kids. So you guys became parents in 2014 to kind of segue here. So you guys are about 3 years ahead of me when it comes to being parents, which is okay, which means our age gap's not too far apart. So for you guys, how long, first, I guess a multi-part question here. How long were you guys together before having kids? How old-ish were you guys when you had your first kid? And what's kind of been that parenting journey for you guys since having your first, then your second to now? What are some of the things that have changed just as people, as a couple, and how have you guys grown and all those fun things?
Yeah.
It's a big question.
Yeah. I consider us pretty lucky. We met very young. We met in high school. And so we have had 14 years together before becoming parents, which I'm very grateful for. And I think, you get the outside comments of like, maybe you should date other people. Like, and I was like, yeah, but like, he's so cool. Like, why? So we're very fortunate in that we've lived a lot of life before becoming parents, which I think has helped satisfy some of that longing to like, I've known a lot of people who had kids pretty young or right after they met. And then there's this desire to like want to do these things. Like we moved away, we moved around and did school and all that. Let's see.
Yeah. And I like being able to spend 14 years together before kids really helped us create our own pattern of being adults and being accountable for each other and dependable for each other. Because there's that period of time when you get out of high school and you're still young and you still view your parents as your support structure or your guidance, your sounding board, right? Because you're still in their pattern of life. And the 14 years together outside of that, moving away, far away from our parents, coming back somewhere else for, that was away from them and creating our own support structure, I think truly helped us feel confident in 14 years later. Now we're ready to have a kid and felt good about it.
Yeah. Although a con to like meeting and dating so young is that oftentimes some of the communication patterns that we had as teenagers can like pop up, in conflict. And those are things that to be, I'm trying to be really aware of. And a lot of that, things come back up when you become parents, right? You're like, oh, I've worked through all this. And then you become a parent. You're like, oh. But yeah, I mean, we made the conscious decision, like we're ready to start a family. It took 1.5 years to conceive our first. She's 9. She's,
almost 10.
She wants us to tell everyone she has dyslexia. She's very proud of it.
Yeah.
She's like, I want everyone to know.
We steer into that. I mean, it's a gift, really.
Yeah. And then we had our second 3 years later, and we expected it to take a while because it took 1.5 years for our first. And so I, pulled the goalie and first round,
first month,
boom.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it came rather unexpected.
Yeah.
But it's perfect. Like, I think the age gap is perfect. They are best friends. I never had a sister growing up, so I see their relationship and I'm like, oh man, this is like something special that I'm so grateful to witness and that they have each other. And
it is crazy how close they are. I mean,
yeah, it's a little alarming.
There's times where we're like dinner time and we don't even exist.
Yeah.
They're just like doing their sister language and like talking to each other, and we're just like,
we don't have a separate language, but
I start trying to talk to Miranda from across the table about something else, and they're like, you guys aren't listening. Like, you're not even talking to us.
You guys are in your own world.
Yeah. No, I 100% get that.
Yeah.
My girls are, one was born in 2017, one was born in 2020. They're about 3 years and 4 months apart. So I love that age gap. Now they're a little bit older. The younger one's going to be 4 later this year. The other one's going to be 7. And sometimes, like, I just don't exist. Like when I have them on my weeks with them, like I just straight up don't exist. Like they're just in their room playing or watching TV or just doing their own thing. And maybe they're not even talking together, but like they'll be on the older one's bunk bed. They have bunk bed. Little one goes on the bottom, big one's on the top. The little one sure helps herself up to her sister's bed whenever she wants so. Climbs up there. So I'll just go in the room and they'll just be laying on the bed. Like they'll have the TV on, but then they'll also have this old phone of mine, this old Galaxy, which doesn't have service, just has games and stuff, but they'll be watching, one of them will be watching a show, they'll be laying down, watching TV, coloring, and doing like 3 things at once. They're my little ADHD babies, and I love them, and I just don't exist. I just go in, and they don't even notice me for at least 10 to 15 seconds. They don't acknowledge me when I walk in. They like sit up, look at me, and then they go back to what they were doing. And I'm like, cool, you guys are fine in here. I'll leave. I'll see myself out. And they just love each other so much. And I get it because like they have to go between the 2 homes like together. Their mom has 2 other kids since we divorced. And so like they have each other like all the time. Kind of a double-edged sword because they have each other all the time. And when they fight, they fight.
Oh. Yeah.
But I don't know if it's the same for you. Does the younger one ever instigate with the older one more so than the older with the younger?
You know, I don't think so.
I think our older one takes things more seriously and like to heart.
She's much more she takes things more personal.
She really does.
And literal too. Sometimes you can't be jokey with her. It depends on her mood because she'll like
she's starting to like click a little more. Like yesterday she made like this funny joke, a sarcastic joke that I don't think would have ever said. I can't remember the actual words about it though. And you were like, no, you said something like, oh, well, no, like, come on, Ivy. But I could tell in her voice she was kidding, and she kind of chuckled. And I'm like, haha, that's funny because she would have taken that way too personal if I or anyone else had said that. So hopefully she's coming out of that shell a little bit. But
our youngest is just very like, she's a heart. Like she's very lovey. She loves to hug. She touches, one of her love languages.
For sure.
She is sensitive in a way that it's so hard to describe, but she doesn't instigate. I think if she does, she can be very sneaky about it. She's going to be a challenge. I think when she's like a teenager, because
she knows how to get away with things.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, I could see some like sneakiness, whereas our older is like very type A rule follower. She'll come home and tell us like some of her friends at school who didn't follow rule at school, you know, and it's like, okay, well, hopefully we don't have to worry about her as much.
Yeah. We'll see. That's the same dynamic for mine too. My older one, she's very, very sensitive. She's highly sensitive. She takes things very literally. She's very smart, very intelligent, where she'll do the same thing. She'll be like, Finland didn't do this at school today and got in trouble. Or Hazel didn't do this and she got in trouble. Or this person didn't do this and got in trouble. But I did this and I didn't get in trouble. But she never mentions when she gets in trouble. But I know she does because she's the type that finishes her work really, really fast and then will talk. And she hasn't developed it yet. I know she will someday. But she can be impulsive and just like blurt out things to the point that are like really funny, and she can't get reprimanded for them because they are funny to an extent where her teacher will laugh with her. I'm trying to think of what her teacher said. She said something. It was very well timed. It was very like spot on. Like the comedic timing was everything. It was perfect. And her teacher was like, I couldn't get her in trouble for it. And this is how she is. Like, I couldn't get her in trouble for these things that she says because she didn't say anything wrong. She didn't say anything bad. It was funny, but I couldn't laugh until later. Yeah. And then my little one, she kind of just watches. You know, she's picking up on all the things like, well, my sister's doing this. If I just hang out over here, if I go up and give Dad a hug, like, I'll still get my candy. I'll still go and get my thing. You won't, because I am picking up on all the things you're doing. So she's learning all she's learning all the right things to not do.
Right. Yeah. Which is like the youngest sibling's job, right? Both of us are younger siblings. And so we learn by watching our brothers and like, ooh, don't do that. Or I'm going to do it different this time. Like,
I'm not going to make that mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of households did you guys grow up in? How many siblings did you guys have? What kind of values were in your guys' homes, like growing up? And how have you guys taken those values from how you grew up and kind of made them into your own like family values now?
Question,
Yeah.
do you want to go first?
Yeah, let's roll with this.
Sit back and
I'm ready for this one.
Yeah. I grew up in a very conservative Southern Baptist home, a very loving home. My parents were very loving. I was really close to my brother growing up. We're about 2.5 years difference, so we were pretty close as kids, and not as much as like in like later teenage years, but we were really close. And they are great. They're awesome grandparents. They're so engaged with our kids. And even though we live several hours apart, they're always asking to FaceTime and proactively asking us to be part of their lives, which is everything we would ever ask for. However, as like I mentioned before, we created our own pathway growing, we've been together longer together than we've been apart. And so we've created this new life and views and all the things that we want as our core values. And it absolutely doesn't match my parents' core values currently. So we butt heads a little bit as far as political views and just lifestyle, I guess. And I also have been disconnected from my brother for several years. And part of it was a piece of him being very close to my parents and having those same core values that they have, and also not agreeing with my lifestyle and other issues. So I'm not going to go too far into that, but we've been separated for several years. But growing up, we grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Washington, and near Puyallup, Washington. So
right in Puyallup.
It was always
Puyallup.
summers going to the fair.
Puyallup.
That's right.
Do the Puyallup. I grew up in South Seattle, so I grew up in Burien, so I did the Puyallup many a years. It's been a few years since I Puyalluped. I will always call it the Puyallup Fair. I will never call it the Washington State Fair ever.
Same.
Yep.
So,
yeah. If you call it that, you're not from there.
Yeah.
No, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's in a nutshell. It was a great childhood. Riding bikes all the time, and way different than they are now. We were just laughing the other day. It's like our kids always have to have their water bottle with them. They always have water. We always have water too. And we laughed like we never had water as kids. Like I don't even know what we drank as kids because we were just out on our bikes for like 9 hours.
We drank Kool-Aid and
pond water,
like country time lemonade.
Yeah. Anyways,
we found a garden hose and we asked Mrs. Johnson, "Can I drink it real quick?" And grabbed a drink and kept on going.
Yeah. I also grew up in Puyallup as well. South Hill. We both grew up in South Hill to be, a little bit more geographically, if you're familiar with the area. I have an older brother as well. He's about 5 years older than me. So, my family was very much, my dad worked at Boeing. He worked a lot. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And we didn't go to church at all. We didn't have any kind of like religious affiliation. Funny enough, my parents used to go to church until I was born, and then they stopped. Very science oriented. My family is very much into science, and my grandfather's name was Darwin, and he was a science teacher, which is kind of funny. But
the original Darwin.
Our values have always been travel. I grew up very fortunate. Like our house, we would have very strict budgets, so we could experience, we go to Europe quite a few times, and camping was always a huge thing, and traveling and road trips and that sort of thing. So that's definitely a value that we've instilled in our family that has continued. The idea of, religion and church has been a little bit of a raw spot for us because of Aaron's experience growing up and my experience. I'm on the side of, so currently we live in a town we're definitely the minority. Everyone we know goes to church here.
You guys are in Oregon.
We live in Sherwood. Yeah, we live in
Sherwood.
Sherwood, Oregon. Yeah. So all of our kids' friends, our oldest kids' friends go to church and they talk to her a lot about things. And she's been invited before. And I've always been on like, yeah, go ahead, go have fun, go do your thing, go learn about all, religions and all. And I think for Aaron, there's some hesitancy of, do I want this to, are you okay with it kind of thing? But
yeah, it's navigating parenthood,
yeah.
it's, You try and it's just like our parents did too growing up. You do the best you can and you make the decisions that you think will set your kids up for success. But I think in the end, when it comes down to it, they're going to make their own pathway when they're older anyways. So
absolutely.
As long as you're sending them to a safe and secure place.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's us. We moved to Arizona for a period of time and then moved back for school, or Oregon. And then,
yeah, we love Oregon. We love, the Portland area. We moved around a lot. We've been here over, 10, 12 years, 14 years, something like that.
Since 2009.
Long time. Yeah. And we've lived in downtown Portland and suburbs, and
we just like progressively keep moving more and more south.
Yeah. We love Sherwood too. Like we have great schools and awesome parents of the kids that I'm friends with. And yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, Sherwood, that's a cool little area. You're south-ish, not just south of Portland, but southwest of Portland, a little bit down there. You're north of Salem.
Mm-hmm.
So a pretty cool spot. You're outside of the city and probably don't get as affected by all the city craziness. You get to see it on TV, but you don't get to live all the Portland craziness. Which is really cool. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, we're really close to wine country, so it's nice. Like you just drive down the road and it's vineyards, so it's really pretty.
It's like Northern California, almost vineyards everywhere. It's really pretty.
Yeah,
definitely. We are wine country up here in the Tri-City. We have vineyards all over the place. We have going down, just driving out to Yakima, there's vineyards. Driving out to Moses Lake, there's vineyards. Pretty much driving in any direction to get out of the Tri-Cities to go down south to like Oregon or to out west to Seattle. There's vineyards everywhere, fruit farms everywhere, just outside of the Tri-City. So it's really cool. We have a lot of local vineyards locally, which is really cool too.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, lots of good vineyard time.
Yeah, nice.
So for you guys, I just lost what I was gonna ask.
It'll come back.
Anyways, so tell us about your day jobs and how that affects or works with your guys' routine, your parenting, and how you guys operate on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll start here just because I didn't actually explain what I did for a living. I'm a regional manager for a local credit union, so I oversee several of our branch locations and operational day-to-day, and budgeting numbers and people and leading people and all the things, right? More on the admin side of developing processes and leading people. So my job requires me to be away from the house quite a bit. I travel a lot. I drive a lot during the day. It's a double-edged sword. At one part of it, I do have some maneuverability and I make my own schedule. And so I can take sick days off if I need to take care of kids, or plan a day where I need to work from home with different circumstances. I can't do it as much as I'd like. But again, I can't even explain how grateful I am to Miranda, who has a full-time counseling job that she works out of her home office and has a full-time job parenting as mom, and really carting our kids all over to swim practices and soccer practices and doing all the things. So, we've made it work, but not without a bunch of sacrifices, especially from you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate that I can create my own schedule, right? I book clients when they're in school, and so I'm able to allow them, to have all the extracurricular stuff, which is great. I don't know how both, working parents outside of the home or single parents do it these days. I'm in awe of them. So yeah. And so I'm usually done working by 2 at the latest. And then I pick up kids and we have either math tutoring or swim practice, or depending on the schedule, there's soccer, and lacrosse is going to be starting soon for our youngest. And there's never a dull moment. And we have a puppy, which is like, we just wanted to add more chaos to our lives, I guess.
At least she didn't get a puppy with a newborn.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No. We were wanting a puppy for a long time, but we knew the girls need to be older because yeah,
it's been a lot. And she's a great dog, which is awesome. Like, she's not like there's some dogs out there that are just really challenging. She's a really good dog, even though she has her moments. But I will say, though, you were very humble about what you were just saying there, as far as like being able to make your own schedule. But you do have to sacrifice a lot. I sacrifice a little bit. You sacrifice a lot as far as taking care of yourself and your needs, because a lot of times the kids' needs come 100% first. Yeah. And then you have to throw the puppy on top of it. So for some reasons, there are our 5-month-old lab is taking priority over stuff that you want to do, like working out and making sure your physical and mental health is taken care of. So I think that's maybe not a source of contention right now in our relationship, but it has come up several times where we're trying to find what that new normal looks like with throwing a dog in the mix. Yeah. It sounds silly and like first world problems is a terrible way to put it, but it's, there's still really things that are really important to us, like taking our time to be in the gym and working out. And that's like a reset for us. And it's important to both of us. So, yeah. It's worth mentioning.
No,
yeah.
We're still working through that.
Yeah.
100%. No, I got so when my oldest daughter was like a little baby, I want to say she was only a few months old, maybe like 6 months old or something. My ex-wife and I adopted a 5-year-old golden retriever from the shelter where we lived at the time. Best dog ever. We had that dog up until 2021. It's been passed for almost 2 years now. And so that was really hard. It was really important for her to go through that. So she grew up with a dog. And then we didn't have any dogs. And then for Christmas that year, so I think we went about 2 months, and then we got a puppy. I had less than a year-old and a 4-year-old, and we got a new puppy. We got Ringo. If you've been paying attention to the screen, you've probably seen his butt going across behind.
I saw a little tail.
Yeah, so that's Ringo. Now he's a nice, big, fat, 55-pound Australian Shepherd Lab mix. He's a thick little boy. And then I decided to add to it. Not only was I a single parent navigating less than a year after my divorce, gotten a new puppy, was trying to navigate co-parenting. This last summer, I thought, why not? I'm engaged. Things are great. I got another dog. I got a little Chihuahua. His name's Leo. Rescued from this home that really needed to go somewhere, or he was just going to be sold out of a parking lot in the middle of a Tri-City summer, which is like 105 degrees. He probably would have died in that parking lot before he even got taken and stuff. These puppies, they had fleas, they were gross, they were everything. And so a bunch of my coworkers and I, we took these puppies in, and so I've had him for, he's looking right at me. I've had him for, I don't know, almost 6 months now, I think. So he's a good little dog. He's not, I haven't gotten him shots or anything like that. I'm just like, well, he's fine. Everything's clean, yard's clean, other dogs vaccinated. So I'm not worried about, nothing's happened yet. So we're good. But it's definitely a challenge to take on like a dog and kids and work and life. And like for myself, like being single for the last like 3 years, my fiance will be moving in soon, and so that'll be a whole new like adjustment because I've been single for the last 3 years. Like just me, the kids, and my dogs. Like my dogs are my rock. I have them 100% of the time. So I love that, but it's also really hard to like find that time because there is a sacrifice that comes with it of not being able to do those things. But as you guys well know, it's so important to just kind of do the thing, make the time, sacrifice where you're at. It's definitely okay for the puppy to stay in the kennel for an extra hour or to be kennelled for an hour so that you can work out. It's okay. I know it's hard on your little heart, on our little heart. It's like, oh, we just want our puppy to be out, we want to be free, to learn, to grow, to play, all the things. But it's like, I have to take this. The dog will be okay for an hour, hour and a half in the kennel. Like they have to learn kennel anyways. Will they hate it? Yeah.
Sure.
Will they bark? Yeah. Will they be upset? Yeah. Will they get over it? Also yes, because they're dogs and their brains are not the absolute biggest things in the world. Especially Chihuahuas. Chihuahuas aren't that smart. And so, but yeah, it's important. It's okay to do those things for you still, but it can be really hard. And Aaron, I think it's amazing just how the example that you're setting right now, just how much you recognize everything that Miranda does for your guys, for your family, and all the sacrifice that has been made on both parts. Like I used to work in a credit union. I worked back office for Hapo.
Nice.
I'm sure you know about Hapo.
Yeah, we have a Hapo just down the road from our admin building.
Yeah. So it's credit unions are a grind, especially being an admin. Like I just moved up into I don't even know how to describe my position, a lead position at work where it came with like, I'm in my own bracket of like pay and like position. I'm the only one in my position. I'm the only one in my pay in my agency, which is really cool, but it comes with a lot. So being in these admin roles, like I've been in management like my whole career. I've always been in management roles. This was probably the longest period of time at a job where I didn't have a management role until now. It only took a year to get there, which is fine. But yeah, it's a lot. It can definitely be a lot trying to fit in all the extracurriculars and all the things when it's just myself. So I always have to look for extracurriculars that are going to be after like 5. If they go till 8 or 9 at night, like that sucks, but it is what it is to make it happen, to make sure my kids have that opportunity to do the things, to play baseball, to play soccer, to swim, to do all the different things. So that sacrifice is important. It kind of is just part of the game that we play as parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see them, develop their passions and their interests and what they're good at or some potential, so that's always fun, to bear witness to that. So I know it'll be, it's always a balance, right? It's always, every day is like, all right, what's the balance today? And most of the time it might be a little bit out of balance, but overall, I feel like things are relatively balanced.
Yeah.
As a general scope, if I had to like zoom out. But those individual moments for sure.
I think it's helpful that we can give and take. We're not both takers or we're not both 100% givers either. So we do try and find that balance of making sacrifices. But again, I still think that I don't say it enough. I don't think that I appreciate you make more of the sacrifices throughout the day for our kids but it's been fun navigating, and like Miranda said, it is awesome to see. This is coming from a banker brain, but it's fun to see the dividends paying off from the investments you're making, because you're taking the kids to all doing all these things, and then like being able to come in and watch them excel at it. It's like, oh man, it's totally worth the sacrifices.
Yeah.
Like our oldest daughter is becoming this badass swimmer.
Yeah, last summer we were on a road trip and we stayed at some our friends' parents' house in Nevada, and they have a giant pool. And we got there, and of course the kids are like all about it. And Aaron's like, we need a life jacket. We need a life. And I was like, she's good. Like, I promise you, she's good. And you were very hesitant. And then she started swimming, and you're like, damn.
She's doing like backflips off the waterfall and like into the deep end and like hours. And I'm like, oh, okay, she's this level of swimmer. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. My freaking 6-year-old, she loves to go and jump into she'll just go to the deep end. No problem. She's learned to swim enough. I used to be a swim instructor back in high school, so it's really paid off that I've been able to help her since she's been really young. Just being able to push her and literally throw her into the water, tears or not. Like, that's what I always tell people. Like, if you want to teach your kid to swim, well, get in the water with them and just make them do what they're not going to like. Because then they'll end up liking it. Now she dives in like the 6-foot water at the gym, at the pool. We have an indoor pool at our gym, which is really nice in the wintertime to burn off some weekend energy. She just jumps into the 6-foot water. She'll go and try to grab things from the bottom. She can't quite do the deepest part of the pool, but she can go in about 4.5, 5 feet, and she can swim down and get stuff and come back up. Just over and over, to the point where last time I did it, she got swimmer's ear.
Oh.
Because she was underwater more than she was above water that time we went. So she had to get drops in her ear for a week. And she counted every single day, 4 more days, 5 more days. 3 more days.
Mhm.
So just super fun. So
there's like a saying there. It's like just like a new saying we can make right now. It's impossible to cry when you're swimming. Like there's no crying in swimming.
there isn't. Well, I don't know. I was a swimmer. I played water polo. I cried quite a bit from the
Yeah.
because water
That means that
Water polo, man, that's intense.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
Wow.
it's vicious
I'm impressed.
because like there's a way that you can sharpen, and I don't encourage this for any parents that have water polo kids out there, but you can sharpen your kids' nails just enough to where it's legal and they get away with it. So then when you're underwater, you can scratch the legs of your like who you're playing against. It happens.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I have some scars on my legs. To where like you're just going against them because you're right up against them, right? It's like you're basically playing like man defense, like in basketball. So you're intertwined with them in the water, and you can move your legs and you can give them like little micro cuts on their legs.
Oh my
as you're
goodness.
in the pool. But you got to think you're also in the pool. What's in the pool? Chlorine, chemicals that are going to get into those cuts right away and cause pain, especially little micro cuts. Like I know you guys have been swimming, and if you ever have like cuts or anything, like anywhere, they kind of burn a little bit. But if you're just going at it for an hour straight in the water, cutting, it's intense. So parents, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't recommend it. It's intense.
Water polo piranha.
Pretty much. So if your girls end up wanting to play water polo, if they end up wanting to play water polo, let me know. But it's
just when you start a game, does the referee like check nails?
Yep, they do.
That's crazy.
You can still get away with it to a very like mild extent. You kind of have to dig in and like claw, but if you're doing it underwater, like they can't see everything that you're doing. And so if you sharpen them just enough, you have to cut your nails, trim them down, and then as swimmers, you're already shaved, so it's not like you have hair really protecting you anyway. So it's just skin.
Right.
Skin and nails, and even a little bit of sharpness over and over again is going to start cutting.
Wow.
Crazy.
I'm going to be thinking about this the entire day.
Yeah. I'm going to have to do some Googling after this.
Yeah.
Thing.
Fun stuff.
Wild.
But let's jump into the YDP3 here to wrap us up. So the YDP3 is 3 questions that I asked all the guests, all the people that come on the podcast, plus or minus a few. So our first one here is, where are you rooted? And this can be where you're physically like rooted, or what makes up the like roots of who you are.
That's a great question. I'm a little bit split. So I'm definitely, rooted here in Oregon, in the Northwest, born and raised here. My heart has always been the forest and woods and all of that. There is a large part of my heart that is still rooted in the place we used to live in, Arizona, to the point where every time I go and visit, it's always waterworks. It's so emotional for me.
What part of Arizona?
Flagstaff.
Oh, I lived in Flagstaff.
You did?
Did you really?
I did, yeah. I was the Walmart on Woodlands Boulevard?
Yeah.
Little Walmart. I was an assistant store manager at that Walmart from 2016 to, midway through 2017 to 2018, because 19 Pepsi, then COVID. So 2017 to midway through 2018. So I was there for about 18 months.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
That's
fun fact.
Flagstaff.
Yeah. Lived off of Cornelius Boulevard.
Yeah.
I love Flagstaff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We were there for 5 years, and granted it's like a blip of time in our, existence, but it was like, I think the most formative for not only myself, because I moved down there by myself first, but for us too as a couple. And then the friendships and relationships that we've made there, it's just like so much of it feels like home every time we go back. 100%. So there's definitely a huge part I'm very much deeply rooted there.
Yeah. And we still feel like we're going home when we go visit every year we go back. we left in 2009, so it's been a while since we've lived there, but it's some parts of the city have just not changed at all, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Flagstaff's absolutely
Yeah. I am absolutely rooted more here in the Portland area. I feel like it is absolute home. It feels good coming home. Flagstaff definitely has a carved out part of my heart. For me, there were some challenges living in Flagstaff based on my job at the time. There's not a lot of opportunity because it's so just centralized in northern Arizona. That's the biggest thing around for hundreds of miles. So, in the credit union world, or even in just any of the financial world, I used to be a commercial loan specialist at a bank there. But there just isn't a lot of opportunity. And then also you can't go down the road and not see somebody that you don't know and work with. And it's just too little for me. So I'm a little more disconnected than Miranda is, I think, from Flagstaff, but it is a lovely part of our growing up and good memories.
We even have the peaks tattooed on our arms.
I love that.
We got matching tattoos for the time we've been together longer than apart, and that's such a huge integral part of our life was Flagstaff. So
yeah.
Like
it's funny that you live there too.
Yeah, I picking up on the vibe. I was picking up on it, but I can definitely say the same for Flagstaff. Like that was where, like, the farthest I'd ever been away from like home and like isolated, and it was such a big move for us because that's where my oldest daughter like spent probably the first 3. She was there. We were there until April 2020. Probably almost about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years of like her life. So that's like where she was like raised, where she first went to like preschool, where she took her first steps, where she took said her first words, where she said like had all her first, and everything was in Flagstaff. That's where I had my first like big boy job, working for Walmart, making just a lot of money. Got into my first car accident. Wasn't my fault. And just everything like about Flagstaff. I have some just amazing relationships that stem from like Flagstaff and working at Walmart and getting to work for Knackers, for Pepsi, was such a huge part of like everything too. So just being able to connect with Flagstaff as a whole, I miss it so much. But that's its own podcast episode. It's talking about Flagstaff.
Right.
The second one here is what grounds you guys when you guys are feeling like all like stressy and depressy. What kind of brings you guys back for when you guys are all kind of up there, maybe even overstimulated, being able to bring yourself back a little bit?
I mean, I think the easy answer would be like working out, but I think truly for me, it would be going camping. I get to a point where I just like viscerally feel it that I need to get out there. And it's also a time for me to, usually we go places that don't have reception. So you can't be on your phones. You don't have that as a distraction. We're much more present. I'm much more present with the kids. Only speaking for myself here. I think you feel the same way, but
sure.
Able to just be more playful. So that definitely rounds me for sure.
Yeah. I was going to take the easy out and say exercise. Yeah. I mean, it is though. I am fortunate enough to where my main office, our admin building, has a full gym, like just a full on, like it's like you're walking into a 24-hour fitness with showers and locker rooms and stuff. And so I get to take advantage of that. And it's a game changer. I feel like I have a lot of like work stress. And if I don't have a regular workout routine, especially taking the time out of my day just to get it done at work, I just feel it after a couple of days. So I also feel like camping is another big part of what makes us our family. And it's like, even now we're like itching to go out. We're like, wait, how many months should we do this for spring break or like the latest Memorial Day? We're going to get out there. So yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. All right, last one here. I'm going to set the scene a little bit. Let's say we're at a park.
Okay.
Right. I have my kids there. You guys have your kids there. You guys are happy, engaged, smiling, laughing, loving life with your kids. I'm over on the opposite side of the park, the exact opposite. Low vibes, all the bad things, all the just like kind of darkness, I guess. I look up, I make eye contact with you guys. Classic Hallmark movie kind of eye contact. Probably with
Yeah.
Aaron, just so you know, probably just with you.
Yeah.
Make that
The
eye
cute
contact.
me.
Exactly. And we make that eye contact, and you guys go, whew, that guy's down bad. He looks rough. RUFF rough. And then I get up and I approach you guys. And I come and sit next to you guys. Let's say there's a bench. I come and sit next to you guys. Sit next to you guys, and I just do a massive exhale, and I just say, look, I see you guys are happy, enjoying life, enjoying your kids, enjoying everything. I'm not there. I feel dark. I feel down. I feel depressed. I feel sad. Just all the bad things, all the low vibes. I'm close enough. You can see me. My bags are down to like my nose. I look tired, just worn out, beaten up, exhausted. In that moment, I ask you, what's your guys' secret sauce? What are you guys doing that I'm not doing? You guys get to share one, maybe 1.5 pieces of advice with me. Try to help me come out of that moment a little bit.
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
That's dark. I mean, it's deep. I suppose me off, like, if I'm just not having time to think about it in that moment, like, don't sweat the small stuff and don't listen to other people's advice either, like unsolicited advice. So it's nice that they're coming to solicit the advice. Man, that's a good question.
It's so hard to like step out of my therapist brain, right? You know, because I'd be like thinking of some resources, like, well, let's get you some help. Let's like make sure you have your support system.
Yeah. Like, how are the kids doing? Are your kids okay? Like,
are your kids safe? No.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. That's a really tough question, Jay.
I know. That's why I
suppose you'd have to open up, obviously, with a bunch of open-ended questions, right? Like, get a little more engaged, like, you know, how are things going? You know, like, just to get a little more substance about what is draining them down, right?
Everything.
Like, it's like, oh, I haven't slept. I got a little one. My kid's been sick, and I'm hard, sleeping. Oh, well, maybe we have some sleep advice. Maybe you should listen to Love After Lullabies podcast. And,
hey, shameless plug.
There must be something really missing. So, like, really kind of looking into yourself of like, what is missing, or perhaps like, what can you let go of? Like, maybe there's some extra stuff that we can just like not carry around anymore, because that could be really heavy. I don't know. Oh gosh, Jay, this is a terrible answer.
No, you're good. I kind of like what you first said there, like your first instinct to jump into your therapist brain, like to think about like, well, what's your support system? Who do you have? Who are you talking to? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing for you? Kind of thing. Kind of that first like therapist instinct you had going there, I think is really important.
Yeah.
And then Aaron, for you, like just stepping out of just like all the logical like banker stuff. I can tell that Miranda, he flirts with you with banker talk all the time. I'm just kidding, but just like stepping out, just like in your dad brain, like dad hat on, like full-fledged mom and dad hat. Like, what are you telling me? Just like parent to parent, like in that moment.
And also, full disclosure, I guess if I'm being completely transparent, I'm not the guy that's gonna like dig in to get this person help. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, like I'm gonna be like, hey, are you good? Like, I'm gonna get a little more information, and like, hey, you know, like I said, don't sweat the small stuff, and like have that casual, like, hope you're doing good. You know, it's life. Things will change. Things will get over it. You know, I mean, things will get better. But I honestly won't be that person that's like setting them up for help and like researching to like get them. I'm not that guy. I wouldn't do that.
Well, I think too, is it parenting advice or relationship advice?
Just to say parent or person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough question.
Oh boy. I don't know.
I think if I'm looking at that guy coming over to us across the way from the park, I'm probably finding a way to go somewhere else.
He's the one that's very like, I don't want to say you don't trust people, but you're very on guard with.
I'm on guard.
Like,
yeah.
Whereas I'm not, and I'm just like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm very much an ambivert. So
you're an introvert.
I'm an introvert in my personal time. Obviously, at work, I'm not an introvert. I like work on being more sociable and engaging and all the things. but I do, as an introvert, I recharge not with other people. I recharge at home with my family and maybe some close friends. But I would probably avoid having that conversation in a park.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to some of more of your episodes to see what other people say, because I'm just so curious.
Definitely. No, and I think that honest like part there is like it would catch you off guard. Like you would revert to your therapist brain and or try to leave the situation. I think that's an honest and perfect answer. Like that's not my forte, and that's an honest reflection there. And be able to have that honest reflection. Those things are so important. So to very end here, go ahead and shamelessly plug yourselves away.
Oh, okay. You want to go?
Yeah, I feel like we shamelessly did in the beginning, but yeah, I mean, I Love After Lullaby has definitely become a passion for us, and we've worked really hard, and you've worked even more hard on doing all the editing and producing for us. But I think that it's been amazing having so many people share their stories on our show and be really vulnerable for the greater good of showing other people the roadmap to certain things, and then helping them guide their own destination. And recently with our Making Maya series, we've been able to become vulnerable on our own show, and kind of going by the example of a lot of our other guests. So very grateful for that.
And it took us, we wanted to wait to do that second season because there was some hesitancy doing it the first season because, for us, especially you talked about, Aaron, of like not wanting to divulge ourselves for nothing, And so we wanted to put a season out there. Yes, this is going well. We really love it. It's definitely turned into a passion of mine. I remember as a kid, I would make radio shows on tape, record myself and then with the radio. And I love that part. And I think that inner child gets to like be playful with the podcast. But now we're in season 2 and divulging and there's no going back. So
yeah, give it a listen if you're interested.
And if anyone wants to be on, hit us up.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for everything you guys shared, all the things that we were able to talk through today. It's much appreciated. And yeah, just thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you, Jay.